Hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Lowry here today with another episode of Presenting Champions, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, bare knuckle boxing legend, British and world champion Mickey Parker. Today we're going to be talking not only about bare knuckle but also about his journey, where it started on the unlicensed scene. We're going to be talking a little bit about the mentality that it takes to compete in one of the toughest sports in the world, bare knuckle boxing. Champ, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. And also, it's great to finally have you here because I wanted to do an interview with you for a long time. So happy days. We're finally making it happen, you know?
Yeah, thanks a lot for it, mate. I'm a busy boy. You do well to nail me down to a second spot. But yeah, we're in now. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And yeah, same here, mate. Busy, but we've matched it up.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
counts. Talking about your journey, obviously we'll talk about past, present, and future. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But I want to go back to actually before bare knuckle and just touch on the unlicensed scene because I remember reading somewhere that in the beginning, when you came into bare knuckle, you were aiming just to win the British title, and that was pretty much everything after that was going to be a bonus. Now, I don't know if that's true, but when you first got the inspiration to jump in, take the gloves off and
Mm.
compete with the bare knuckle, where did that idea first come to you in the beginning?
To be perfectly honest, my coach at the time, Billy Bessie, he was very good friends with Kevin Bennett. So he was very thing. And I mean, me and my coach have never lied to each other in my life. He knew what I was, and he seemed to think bare knuckle was down to me. I mean, we can go around the block and like try to fight boxers, but I mean, a good boxer always beats a brawler, as you know. And he said, I just think this bare knuckle seems a bit of me. And me and Billy went up to, I think it was BKB 4 in Coventry, and we watched that there, and I was just hooked to it straight away. I was hooked to it, and I think I made my debut BKB 7. So it was a quick correspondence.
Yeah, love at first sight, pretty much. And
Mate,
with the unlicensed side of things as well. Obviously, I've been following your bare knuckle career since the beginning. With the
yeah.
unlicensed, how many fights did you actually have with it? Were you doing it a long time or?
Yeah, well, I had about 40, I think, in about 3, 4 years. So
Yeah.
we were pretty active on the scene. We won a hell of a lot. I think we only lost about 4, 5 in the time. We went up, down. We fought most boys, the top boys out there. We won some, we lost some, but I just loved the thrill of being in there. You know, Loved it.
Absolutely nothing like it in life. That's the thing. So with the bare knuckle side of things, then transitioning into it with like the gloves off and everything, it's a different tempo. I mean, it's a different speed. There are some differences to it. Was it natural for you, sort of from that first fight, or did it take a little while to sort of sink in?
No, no. I mean, before I went pro, Billy, my coach, did on an unlicensed show. I had my first bare knuckle fight on there. I fought a fella called Jan Lizak, I think. I think he's an MMA fighter, and we fought on that show. And, straight away, it's like being on the streets. When you start, anyway. When you start, it's like being on the streets because you just think you just got to go in there and punch crap out of each other. But obviously, as I progressed through my career, it become life. You have to live the life of a pro. But yeah, as we started, I had that first one on the thing and on Billy's show, and I just went from there, and it was, yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't mind bleeding or getting hurt or things like that. It never bothers me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I did read somewhere that in the beginning with the bare knuckle, you were, doing it, you were giving it a try, but you didn't have necessarily these expectations of being like the world champion and being the top, like at the top you
Uh,
were. Am I right
no,
in saying that?
yeah, yeah, mate, 100%. It. To be honest, yeah, the last 4 or 5 years, I've just been on a wave. You just got to ride it. Sometimes on the when I went on them first shows and like the likes of Jimmy was world champion and things, then you just watch them and they're the bigger boys on the show, and you watch them and you thought, wow, well, Jimmy's fighting a minute, and you're all thinking. And then you know, to my last fight with Carl, I think we were co-main with Jimmy V. Puck and Barry. And you know, like I say, I pinch myself a lot of the time when I look into things like that, and I think, wow, you know, it's hell of a ride,
Yeah.
hell of a ride.
Absolutely, it's amazing what you've accomplished, and
Mm,
obviously there's a lot of fights to talk about here, but obviously people are going to want to hear about the toughest fights that you've been in because obviously you've been in with a lot of the best guys. I mean, there's no two ways
mm,
about that as well. Bennett was tough anyway at the best of times, you know, but nonetheless, whether this is somebody's speed, somebody's power, whether this is something that was going on in your life outside the ring, you know, and you had to
mm.
sort of push through that. It comes in different forms, if you get what I mean. But which
Yeah,
one
cool.
stand out for you as being like the toughest fights that you've had so far?
Mm. I mean, fight wise, I would always say where I had to dig the deepest was the Thomas second fight when I had a terrible third round. You know, I got put down on my ass for the first time in BKB. You know, I had to get up. You know, I went back to the corner and I said, the first thing I said when I went back, well, I said, my leg's gone. There's something wrong with my leg. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't realise that in that fight. When Dave went over, he broke his leg, but I broke my leg in the round before as well. You know, so I went back and, you know, the talking I got in that corner from my coaches, you know, and everything. And then they got the crowd. If you look at the video, they got the crowd, everyone tried to get the crowd going. And they said, you have just got to land one punch. You've got to land this punch or you're done. You know, you're done in this fight. And that fight, that moment, the adrenaline I pulled in from that talk, you know, got me through that fight. So that fight wise was probably then because it was a strange fight. I mean, the first round, you know, Dave won. You know, I started slow as I always do. Second round, I nicked it back. Third round, I got spunked all over the place, spanked all over the place. And then fourth round, I pulled it out of the bag, you know. But, you know, that I would say was my toughest fight. But my toughest fight always is myself. You know, to, um, I need to be busy. I mean, I train a lot of people these days, and I always say to them, "What's the goal?" Always needed to have a goal to train towards and things like that. You know, and for years when I was younger, you know, I was a little shit because I didn't know. You know, there was no goal, there was no aim. You know, I was just going through life, just going through life. I mean, and that was finding boxing. I think was my biggest fight, being out there. You know, look, I say, I weren't not a nasty person, but you know, where a lot of people again don't know, I'm autistic. You know, and when I was growing up, no one knew. I didn't know I was autistic till my daughter was diagnosed with it, and they said it's hereditary, and then it just finally clicked. Gee, that was wrong with you. I mean, didn't like really mixing with people at school and things like that. But then, like this is what clicked with me when one day someone was picking me. I can't believe it was picking. But then I hit them back, and everyone thought because I hit someone back, and then I thought it was cool. Everyone would like, you know, people like you now because you're doing things like that. So I went through life for years and years and years doing that because people like me because I hit people, and then it got me into countless amount of trouble and things like that. And it generally wasn't until I was about 30 years old that I realised, you know, all I want to do is train and fight. You know, but you know, life takes itself down all different roads. You know, and that's how mine went.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, big respect for turning it around, you know, because with this type of thing, it is hard to break a cycle like that.
Massively,
Yeah,
massively,
when
mate.
all you've known and everything, do you know what I mean? And it's always familiar and all that. So big respect on that. With that in mind, then, what I'm going to do, it'd be great to get your advice on people actually who are going through that situation. What I mean by that is, say if there's
Yeah.
youngsters listening to this, they're lost, they don't know which direction to turn, you've turned it around. What would you
Mm,
say to people who are basically in the same position that
yeah,
you was in, you know, a few
mate.
years
Yeah,
ago?
I'll probably, yeah, I can tell them my voice, but do you know one of the, now we're talking about one of the most stupidest things I ever did, and all the time, you know, I had Vince Lace, my wife, we had our daughter when we were 17. Do you know, I'm now 40, she's 22 or 23, one of them. Right, she's there, but all the time when we were younger, right, I was like in and out of prison all the time. But I could always remember, life forget like really hard sometimes. And then I'll go out and I'll be like, I've just had enough of all this. I've had enough of all this, and I'll go out, we'd have a good night out, and then at the end of the night, a policeman would be outside the club or say something, and I just feel like, stop this. And I'll chin the gabber, we'd have a rap with the gabber and we'd do things like that. And I literally went to prison probably 6 or 7 times for that offence, exactly the same one all the time. The police hated me around there and everything. And it wasn't until, like I say, 10 years ago, I realised why I was doing it. And this may be the most stupidest thing you ever think, but this is God's honest truth. I wanted a bit of stability in my life, bit of routine, right? Where I get up in the morning, they say, wait, you're going to the gym now, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that. All I wanted to do is go to the gym. Do you know how stupid that is? Do you know, my wife was bringing my daughter up on her own, and all I wanted to go down and pay 20 quid and get a gym pass down the road for a month. That's all we had to end. And I generally, once I'd realised this, I haven't been back to prison since. It's just one of the most backward things you'll ever hear in your life.
It makes sense, though. It does make sense.
Yeah, mate, it makes massive sense to me now.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but that's what I did. Again, it's an autism thing. You think of it, all I wanted was routine. All I was doing out here was drinking and thinking, having bad thoughts of how to do stuff. I could have got my fix in a boxing gym. But yeah, that's what I did.
And with the autism thing, it would be great to get your reflections on that as well, because obviously there's so much more awareness now than
Yeah,
there was even a few years ago. And by the way, when I was in school and I had all this, I had
yeah,
dyslexia, ADHD, and you're not going to believe it, but autism as well, by the way.
yeah. You may well
Yeah.
speak spectrum
But
now,
I
right?
never, I don't speak about it much, but I never the thing with me is like my parents were very like against the labels, and they were very much like, okay, you've got to do things your own way, but that's not a bad thing. That's just doing things your own way. So luckily that, but anyway, not going off topic here, but first of all, how you manage autism. And I don't, like I say, I don't like labels. So I'm not going to say manage your condition, because I don't think it is. I think it's just a different way of thinking. But how do you manage it day to day for people who don't know how it works? Let's
Yeah.
say some people.
Back in the day, again, like I say, I didn't know I had it, but I couldn't. Well, I still can't never eye contact. Eye contact. Someone like staring at you. When you're younger, you get scared, but when you get older, you get angry with it. You think, what's he looking at? What's it? Fella's only talking to you. But back then, I used to manage it by being angry. But early years, like I say, I was scared. You think, and then with scared, in the end comes anger and things like that. But like now, it's life. I've passed it on to my daughter. I, I might look the other way and think that and say something outrageous every now and again. But that's just life to me now. I've learned to deal with it. My daughter's getting there now. Sometimes you might do weird crap, and the wife always put me in line, and tell me. But autism is out there. Dan Lover does a massive good job trying to raise awareness for it. He's probably one of the only other people. I haven't really talked about this, but Dan knows I've got it. We've had a good chat about it before, and like he said, there's respect for saying things like that. But now it's one of them things. I'm good with it. I'm good with people who have got it. Like you just touched on, when we were younger, if someone had autism, they were a bit weird, wouldn't they? That they'd be in the special class on their own, and you wouldn't say nothing. I think it's a generation thing. Back in our days when we were younger, you wouldn't think, you wouldn't. Well, people wouldn't put up with it, would they? In school, they'd get picked on rotten, and it'd be horrible. Horrible life for them. But now it's just a certain thing now, and you just got to get on with life. Accept people.
Yeah, well, that's it. Accept people for who they are, and
Yeah,
at the end of
for
the
sure.
day, we all got different abilities as well. That's what I say, and I always say the school system and everything in particular, they got this sort of one size fits all thing, and it's starting to change now. It's starting to open up to the fact that people learn in different ways and everything. But yeah, I relate to. I wasn't expecting that, by the way, because I honestly
Yeah,
didn't.
no,
I
I
didn't
won't
know
say
that.
that.
No, and I didn't even know that when I
Yeah,
booked this or anything. But I'm so glad you said, because I relate to a lot of what you said, including the thing about people staring at you, where you sort of take it
Yeah,
person, you take it
massively.
as an affront, like what you're doing, but actually it couldn't just be misreading the sort of the cues of like why they're doing it and everything. So, man, that's cool. I mean,
Yeah,
that's cool that we get to talk about
yeah.
this. Your
Well,
advice again for somebody who's struggling or somebody who is on
mate.
the spectrum, what would you say to those people as well? You know?
Do you know the first thing I would say is training for something. Do you know? I mean, it takes a lot of aggression out. It takes, I mean, I train a lot of people, like I said earlier, but a lot of them, do you know, you need just to train for something. And if you gave someone with autism, and sometimes you can use, I'm not going to call it illness because it's just how they are, but use it to their benefit. I mean, if you told someone with autism you wanted them to, I don't know, run an 8-minute mile, do you know, I'll guarantee you within like 2 months, they would. If they got the bug for training and they went and trained and they got it in there, because you, as you know now, right, you can't get it out of your head. Do you know, you do something and you know, I've got to do it, I've got to do it, I've got to do it. Do you know, and you, in the end, you would, you end up addicted to training, do you know, addicted to doing that. And with training, once you get comfortable around the gym area and things like that, your personality comes out. You act natural around that environment, do you know. And I think gym is the answer to most things autistic. Do you know, if you got them training and got them doing things like that, I really think that helps.
Yeah. Oh, it does, mate. Absolutely, it does. I mean, like you said before, the routine and everything,
Mate, definitely.
the focus, like the singular focus, getting a good feedback from it. There's a lot of stuff in there that, yeah, getting in that
And
gym.
confidence comes from that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know, when you're in the gym, do you know, people get more confident because, like you say, when you're autistic and you're starting, you have no confidence. Do you know, that's where my confidence come from, just punching out. Do you know, and when I did punch out, everyone was like, he's the big boy now. Do you know, he does that. And then I just thought that was the only way out. But, you know, when you're in the gym and people are saying you're doing well and doing things like that, I really do think that is one of the big answers to autism. So get them training, get them, help them along that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, 110%. And I'd like to give him a shout out as well. You mentioned Dan a little while earlier, a great guy. There's a lot of great
Yeah,
awareness for this. Shout out
yeah,
to him. He was on this show back in December talking about this
yeah,
as well. Got mad respect for that man. Just wanted to put that in there.
yeah,
What he's doing.
yeah,
So coming back to you and the fights and everything, when it comes to the training routine, when it comes to your routine training now
yeah,
and everything like that, um, talk us through. I mean, I don't want you to give away anything that your opponents could pick up on and use or anything, but just in
yeah.
terms of your regime of how you train day to day, let's talk a little bit about that, including do you train with gloves or do you actually train bare knuckle now when you're like on the bag and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I've hit things on the bag, bare knuckle, and things like that. But do you know, at the end of the day, my hands have been fighting for 40 years. Do you know, my hands are conditioned for it. I don't really. You can hit someone in the wrong place, their head turns somewhere. Do you know, your hands are going to break. I've never really struggled with it in the bare knuckle thing ever. Do you know, I've never struggled with boxing. I've always struggled with my elbows where you hyperextend sometimes and things like that. But you know, that's the only way I really struggle with the bare knuckle side of things. Do you
Yeah.
know, there.
Absolutely, it makes sense. How do you, this is something I like to ask people because it's almost like a behind the scenes thing, right? You're coming up on a big fight in the bare
Yep.
knuckle. What's going through your mind on the build up to a fight? Are you feeling like nervous, excited,
Mate,
mixed
I
emotions?
think everyone on the bare knuckle was seen as say, oh mate, and I'll put this in the politest way to any of my opponents. I don't give a toss. I just love getting in there. I love fighting. I love doing everything to do with it. I mean, you touched on the training then. I mean, training to me, again, is autism. I am so strict, you know. I'll get signed up for a fight tomorrow, right? And I'll be out in the garden drinking, and I'll be signed up for it tomorrow. Bang, that's it, done. I'm fighting that day. I will go and straight in routine. I mean, I'm in the gym every morning at 3 o'clock, training other people. You know, at the moment I'm training for a run, but when I'm fighting, I'll be in there. I'll be in there at 3 o'clock, and I'll get back in there in the evening at 9 o'clock, in between helping people and doing things. But I am religious to it 6 days a week. I will never ever stop. You know, I've always travelled the country on my own, sparring. You know, I don't care about where I go. Always do the best of the bits. You know, and like a lot of people say, I've got a gun or travel. You know, I'll go up there. I'll get it. And it doesn't matter. You're learning. You know, that is what the fight game is about, learning.
Absolutely, yeah, learning and just testing yourself, improving yourself step by step. I love it. Absolutely amazing. So, okay, going back to the bare knuckle side of things, the world title fight, we need to talk about that because at the moment
Yeah.
it's sort of the pinnacle. I mean, personally, I think there's a lot more to come in your career as well, but at the moment it's the pinnacle. So, first of all, going into the fight, how did you feel? Because I understand you and Carl are actually good mates. Am I right
Yeah,
in saying that?
mate. I was only talking to him this morning. I was talking to him this morning. Um, it probably started about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was lockdown. I went to someone's, well, not someone's house. There was a ring for a hire. We went up there. We had a day out. Me and Carl got on very well, you know, and things went from there. I mean, he's someone in our class is one of my top mates, and we we kept talking, and we kept in contact. I mean, he's good friends with my wife. I'm good friends with his daughter. You know, it's just crazy. But after when I won the British title, I was ready to jack all in there, mate. I got, like you said earlier, I got to my goal. I was there. I was happy. I was like, what a way to go out. You know, the 41 fight of the year. You know, I was happy to go out, and then I got the carrot dangled by Jim, the promoter. He was like, brilliant fight, loved that the other day, done brilliant. He said, world title next? Question mark, question mark. And I was like, huh? Well, you can't put me in that bracket. World title? I said, what do you mean? And he told me, like, his idea. And I mean, there was the fight with Eric and Carl. He said, I obviously understand you got broken leg at the moment, but he said, but this is my plan. They're going to fight, and the winner faces you for the world title whenever you're ready. And I was like, no, they can't. You know, so yeah, I mean, that's how it went. I was ready to jack in, and then I was like, well, I can't pass this opportunity. I mean, Carl obviously won the fight, you know, and then I was like, I've got to fight my mate now, you know, but me and Carl, I don't know if you followed it, we were sparring all the way through camp, you know, for that fight. I mean, a lot of people think why, but we'd been sparring constantly probably for 4 years. There was nothing in that 10 weeks to that camp that we don't know about each other. And I've said it in numerous interviews about that fight. It's whose face breaks first. You know, we both could hit each other. We both always, you know, took shots. You know, no one ever got wobbled. You know, we got good chins. You know, but I always thought, once you take the gloves off, you know, I think it was whose face broke. And, you know, fortunately enough, it was Carl's for me. You know, it wasn't nice to do, and I'd rather not done it to my friend. But again, it's the fight game. You can't turn down world title shots, you know.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. That's the backstory. That's amazing. And in terms of like when you won the world title, because I know obviously you were saying just now about the British and world
Yeah,
was, you sort of thought it was out of your league type of thing, but you
yeah,
got
100%.
in that moment though, when you realize you've won, you're like, man, I'm a world champion now. How do you put something like that into words? Can you even put it into words?
You can't. I mean, I can remember looking around. I've always been able to sell tickets. I mean, I'm privileged to have come from a fighting city like Portsmouth, who generally get behind their fighters. Do you know, I remember on the world title, we had hundreds out in the crowd. You know, I think it was about 350 tickets we sold there. And, you know, just to look down at all them people, you know, it, you always think, how can this be topped? Do you know, I don't know how you can top that feeling of actually winning world titles and things like that when your name's called out, and you sit back in a little bit of awe, you know. But then you realise you always are for yourself, you know. And then when you go from backstage and you walk through the crowd and things, I absolutely love it. I love being amongst people and doing things for the right reasons. Because through the years I've done a lot of things for the wrong reasons, you know, and people think bad of you. But now this side of life, once I got past 30, anything ever said about me is good. No, it's crazy old life.
Absolutely. Like I said before, it's amazing how you've turned it around and got
Mm,
mad respect, just as much respect for that in a way as winning the world title. Because, like I said at the beginning, breaking out of a cycle like that is hard to do, you know.
yeah, thank
So
massively.
you know, yeah. And obviously, the reaction from your community. I mean, because you were saying they sort of some people will know you as this troublemaker and all these type of things.
Yeah,
And obviously, you're at the top of the mountain with being a world champion and
yeah.
a family man, and you've turned it around. So what is the response like from, people in general, people in your area, especially, you know?
Like I say, I'm a lot of friend. I mean, at our gym, all the pro boxers train there. You got Joel McIntyre, Michael Mackinson, Lucas Bellingham. You got a lot of good pros who train there. I'm classed in the same respect as them. Which in my eyes, I'm like, they're the pros in my eyes. I look up at them. But like Mikey said to me last year, he said, "No, Mickey," he said, you do the same. You take the same risks as us. Just take it all in. And I have. I love living that circle, and I love actually kids looking up to you and things like that. Do you know? You've got to pinch yourself sometimes. When a kid comes out, have you got any advice for us and things like that? I mean, and that's why I got so much respect for BKB now, because they gave me the foundations to help others, in life, and it's a brilliant thing to be able to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that giving back and contributing and everything is
Yeah,
amazing. I'm glad that we're getting the message out there today. And I know you speak a bit about turning your life around and that everything, but
yeah,
I hope that you continue to get the autism thing out there more because people, I don't know how you feel about it, but people need to hear that. I mean, there's a lot of
yeah.
people
Oh,
feel.
we will now. We've told God knows how many people. It was only Daniel Lerwell and a few others that do. So
Yeah.
yeah, we put it out there, but I don't care about that. It is life.
Well, I got to say though, thank you for saying that to me as being like the first person or whatever, because weirdly,
Mate.
that's an honor in itself, you know.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, well, now it's out there. Please continue with that because people
yeah. Well,
feel that they're on their own and they feel that they're the only ones going through it. That's the problem with something like autism. You think, oh man, am I different to everybody else, or what's the deal here? And obviously,
mm,
hearing somebody like you and hearing somebody that people look up to with everything you've achieved, and rightly
yeah,
so, say about it, I think that'll break down a lot of barriers. Same for Daniel, same for a lot of people putting it out there. But now you're one of them. Brilliant.
yeah.
So that's not a question. I'm just saying it's brilliant, you know.
Mm,
So you mentioned
thank you.
about yourself and Carl being good mates and everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to your opponents, have there been many situations where you've been in a fight with somebody that you personally don't like, or is it always pretty much just business and you leave it all in the ring type of thing?
Again, this is the horrible thing. I I can't not like no one. I can remember when I fought Mark Godbear, and again, he's a good mate of mine now, right? But when we went in, he's a pro athlete. I mean, I learned so much from that fight. I went in there. Everyone said I was getting sparks in 10 seconds. Blah blah blah, this and that. I wasn't even worried. I wasn't even worried about who he was. He was like the new superstar when he come over. Everyone said he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and I was like, so what? This is me. This is my cup final. I went in there, but he was the only person like who's ever like got in my face and did things like that, mate. And I mean, there was always a good picture. He was like that, angry in my face, and I was just laughing my head off. I found it so funny that there's never been no one really in the fight who I'm actually fighting that thing has ever got under my skin. And I mean, it's a weird thing. People deal with the fight game in different ways. I mean, people get aggressive, people get proper punches, in there. Me, I just love it. So I don't care as long as they're punching me and I'm punching them. It's just we've got two arms, two legs, and a head. That we're all the same. It don't matter who you are. I mean, like with Mark, I mean, we've sparred much better rounds than when we fought that time. But when he didn't bowl me out of there in 5 rounds, and he said to himself, he said, "You got some head on you, my mate." We both stood there, and if you looked at both of us after the fight, you'd think, I won. Mark's always busted thing, but no, that's life. I love that bit.
Absolutely amazing. And it's so cool to get the behind the scenes, the story on some of these, as well as like what you
Yeah,
get from
sure.
watching the actual fight, you know. So world champion now, future plans. I mean, I think that the future is very, very bright. I mean, you're on a good run and everything, you know. What do you want to
Well,
do from here?
mate, at the moment, I'm not fighting at the moment. I've said it's it. I've said says this. I says that. I mean, at the moment, I'm training. I'm training for a running event in September. I'm training on the up your end. I'm doing a Dragon's Back race. So
Okay.
I'm running from North Wales to South Wales. Training for that. I broke my foot about 7 weeks ago. Um, Pain in the ass. Didn't go to the hospital 5 weeks. Put a boot on for 2 weeks. I slung it off, and I'm now kind of spreading the word around this area. When people got injured and things like that, their mental health and things like that, it goes down. Like, mate, I was the same. I started drinking again all the time. I was pissed off. But now, I've took a positive from a negative. This morning I went out and run half a marathon. 7 weeks prior, a broken left foot. I'm trying to. What was the word I said earlier? Your pain a lot of the time when you're running, right? Well, after a big injury, is the fear of yourself breaking that bone again. Your brain's in fear of it. Once you beat the fear, you beat the pain. do you know. And I got up this morning. I don't look, as I say, 7 weeks prior to a broken bone in my foot. I've got up, I've gone up, I've run that. So I'm trying to spread the word with this a little bit. Once September goes, who knows? That's why I took this run on. I took the run on because I've got to train for something. I have to, because if not, I'll slip back in that rut like we were talking about earlier. You're going out, you're drinking, and drink sometimes, I'll have a drink, but then sometimes slip when I've got nothing to train, nothing to take my aggression out on, nothing to do things like that, then you slip back into that world again, and it doesn't, it never ends well, put it that way.
No, absolutely. Yeah, got to have something to focus on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. There's so many guys in the fight game who will tell you that they can't not train.
Yeah, when it ends, when it ends, you're like, what do I do now?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely. Well, I will say good luck for the run as well, because that's a cool challenge for you, and I'm
yeah,
sure you'll do great. And we hope to see you back in the ring
yeah,
after that. But let's see how it goes. For now, you got to enjoy being on top of the world. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I meant to ask you, after you won the world title, yeah, how did you celebrate after that? Did you go out and party and do anything, or was it just like a very chill, like you just come home?
do you know what? Me and Carl went out and celebrated. We
Wow.
went out and celebrated with we had both our sets of fans. I mean, his fans are my fans are his fans. We went out and we went on the town of London for the night. We had a brilliant night. I mean, everyone looked at us a bit weird. Carl, he had a proper old Goonies eye, he did. But it's the fight game, and that's one of the things I do love about it. After it's all said and done, especially in my eyes, there is things out there where people do generally hate each other, but not many, not many. And after a fight's done, the amount of respect is there. I mean, I've got a lot of good friends in the fight game. Carl Mason Shaw is a very good friend of mine, you know, amongst others. And, we are like a family. If you see someone, the respect you get when you're a fighter is totally different respect as just a normal person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about sports, as well as how the fight game saves people and helps people
Yeah,
turn it
yeah, mate,
around.
100%.
That's one thing, but the mutual respect and all that type of thing, people punch lumps out of each other, and they go off and have a pint or something afterwards and all that.
Yeah,
It's a next level respect. And the amount of guys I interview where, like you say, that you fight each other and then you become mates from it and everything, and
yeah,
they be mates for life from that.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing. So that's the upside. So last couple of things then. Obviously, people you'd like to thank as well. People you'd like to thank who've helped you in your career. You touched on one or two names through
yeah,
this, but I'd like to give, shout outs and give people a mention who are helping fighters behind the scenes.
yeah. I mean, as always, my wife, people never, ever know what a wife goes through. You know, when, again, we're touching on the autism, when I'm autistic and I've got to do that, I've got to train. She said, like, we've got to go out for a night or we've got to go there. Nah, we can't, and this one reason she looks with this break about it, she can have her day and things like that. But when with autism, things like that, and I'm like, no, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. She said, why? You're not going to lose a fight because you really can't do that. But I have to do it. And that girl put up with hell for about 5 or 6 years whilst I've been learning my trade as such, through that. I mean, even the Thomas second fight went through 2 years of lockdown. I mean, I had all the tickets sold, not one person given back. That's another good thing, Paul. Not another one person said, could have the money back. Everyone still went and we sold even more. But, when you're doing that, and she's like, why are you still training, Mike? It's lockdown. The world's stopped at the moment, but I said, no, I can't lose the focus. I mean, even now, I'm at fight weight now. I could fight tomorrow at Crusierweight. Well, I'm probably a bit late now. I think I was at 96 the other day, just because I need to be training. I need to train doing this. But I always find myself shadowboxing and things like that. And again, she says, why are you doing this, Mike? Ease up, but it's just a pro thing. So yeah, I'll always owe her so much in my life. I mean, yeah, that's the first one. I mean, someone else I owe a lot to is, and I always think, I don't even know why I'm thinking like this. Bringing out the weirdness in me, mate. But there was a young girl that died, probably think about 10 years ago. And that's how I got into boxing. Young girl called Nadine Blake died from cystic fibrosis around there. I was very close to her. I mean, and she's the main reason when she died, I've done so much for charity locally around here, so much. I mean, I've probably raised £100,000 around there, charity-wise, over the years, doing different things. But she was the reason I went to a boxing gym. I was pushing weights. I was about 20 stone big. After like a prison thing, you go to the gym, you come out, you're pushing weight. But I remember texting Billy one day when I was on the water boy. I said, well, I want to do something to raise money and awareness for cystic fibrosis. And and she said, wait. She said, but I can't. If I start pushing weights and things like that, no one's got interest in that. I said, I'm thinking about climbing Kilimanjaro. I was thinking about doing that in her memory. And she said, well, I said, but that isn't going to get my fitness up. So I said, what do you think about going to a boxing gym? And, get my fitness up like that. And she said, no. And I said, someone locally trains with Billy Bessie down there. And then I think on that walk, I text Billy and I said, do you mind if I come up and start doing a bit of training? And look, I said, he was my coach throughout my career, and I do owe Billy that. I mean, within 6 months, we had a charity show in honour of Nadine. I mean, that day I sold 230 tickets on my first fight ever we had the Mountbatten Centre in Portsmouth. But that was like 800 people in there, and we raised about £5,000 to go towards charity. 6 months later, I climbed the mountain in her honour, did that. So that girl's got a hell of a lot to do indirectly to my boxing career. Everything I've done from there is down to that girl dying. So horrible thing to say, but in her memory, everything I've done that has been for her. Sad, but in life. And within that, what you've just said, I mean, I'll give everything to Billy, but there's another 2 coaches. Get one of my best. Well, my pal I've got the gyms with now, Gary Birch and Rob Ford, who is my sparring partner, boxing coach, who has done so much for me over the years. Poor old Fred's had his face busted up millions of times. He's a much better boxer than me, but every time we have a fight, he's such a good boxer that he fights in the style of someone I'm fighting. So he'd study their videos and he'd fight me that way, even though he can't fight that way. And then his nose and his head's going, he's had countless and now cuts on his head. And I'm like, why are you doing? He said, no, I'm your coach and I want you to do things. This is how you got to fight. He said, you're doing good. You're hitting me. Do you know, so I owe all of them everything, do you know, for in the fight band. But it all spills down to that young lady dying, which is so unfortunate, but it's life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is unfortunate. It is cruel when people go young like that, you know, and they
Yeah,
pass.
well,
But
she was 18, I think, 17, 18 she was.
I mean, oh man, I mean,
Yeah.
you think about it from her point of view, and you know all the things she'll never get to do, and everything. You think about it from the family's point of view. It is saying that obviously how you've made it a positive, even though it's something
Yeah.
that would be a positive in itself, obviously someone, but you've made it taking a positive out of that situation.
Yeah.
And the charity work, big respect on that, mate, giving back, you know. Yeah.
So much around here. I mean, we've done the cystic fibrosis. We've raised so much for diabetes over the year. What my friend Gary who just said, with me and him, his kids are both type 1 diabetic. Do you know, we've raised so much awareness. But what we're looking to do lately is local charities. When you, I mean, for cystic fibrosis and diabetes, they both run the national charities. And, do you know, as good as they are, do you know, I don't get the ump over it, but I know somehow it's paying someone's wages, and that isn't like what I'm set out to do. I'm out to help people, do you know? And we got a few local charities around here. We've been doing a lot for Hannah's Holiday Homes, and it's a group of people that take people away, like end of life care and things like that, and they help them, and they take them in, and they have a little holiday, a little break which they can't do. You know, I mean, there's a local charity here I'm a patron to, FFC, Friends Fighting Canada. They do loads around here. But with the Dragons Back stuff, we haven't chose a charity we're going to do it for yet. And again, it's horrible to say, but come September, there might be something local that gains momentum, you know, and we might just use them. You know, someone might be ill, someone might, I don't want to say, but we will choose it. So closer to the time, we will do something for someone who needs it, you know, and someone who will see the money, and like families if they need help. That's what we would do.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing. In that sense, you hope somebody doesn't fall on hard times like that. But unfortunately, in the world, there's a good chance they will, even though we don't
Yeah.
ever want that, we don't want that to happen. But then, if you can support them, that's a beautiful thing. I have to also ask you about the climbing the mountain as well, because that's got to be a cool story. I mean, because it's funny, because I said earlier about the world title, I said, "Oh, you've reached the top of the mountain."
Yeah.
As a figure of speech, not realizing that obviously, you know, you literally have
Yeah.
the world's biggest. What was that experience like?
Yeah. It was good. Do you know what? I breezed up there. I was absolutely flying all the way. I did the first 6 days flying, got to summit night. It was minus 25 up there in the middle of Africa. Do you know, the middle of Africa. And I don't know. It got me. Altitude got me. Do you know? And I was on the way up there. I got to the top, got my pictures done with my mate Kenny at the time, and then that's the last thing I remember. Apparently, so Kenny was telling me they had like summit people come over there, doctor come over, and they took like my blood oxygen level. Do you know, you think you take your oxygen level, and you know it was it was 60 something percent, so 60, 70%, and do you know, well, you obviously know what it means. It still don't mean nothing to me. Do you know? But they said if it was 80%, you'd be in the hospital on blues and twos. Do you know? And like I say, it was high 60s, low 70s. And apparently they threw me off. Summit porters throw you off. And what they say, if you've got broken legs and arms, do you know, that doesn't matter. Do you know, there's like slopes, it's full of snow. A lot of people don't know that in Africa. But yeah, I was slung off there. I was slung off the mountain about 3 times. Apparently, it takes 3 hours to get down. I was at base camp within an hour. Do you know, they took me down. I can remember nothing whatsoever about getting down. But I got down and they had the pictures, and it's something I laugh over now. But it's, again, altitude sickness.
Yeah. That is amazing. I've heard about it, but it's the first time I've heard it like first person, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the blood oxygen thing. Yeah, I mean that is low. That is like,
Yeah, mate. But it says nearly dead, like you sleep in comas and things like that. I didn't know. I was just like, it was just like you were drunk up there. You was walking around drunk.
yeah.
Very strange. But again, it's another story to tell. I always said I'd write a good book one day. You know, there's loads of stories down there.
Yeah, well, that you should absolutely. The last thing I wanted to ask you about that you touched on at the beginning was you said about coaching people and training people as well. And I got a lot of respect for, giving back and contributing to people's lives,
Yeah.
whether they get into the fight game or not, or whatever they're doing it for.
Mm.
Somebody training is amazing. So tell us a little bit more about what you do with like that side of things.
Well, what we did again years ago when the boxing science started, me and my pal Gary, I mean, I was like, how can I think of it? He's very spontaneous. Gary is very spontaneous. So one day he said to me, he said, "Why don't we get our own gym?" I said, "Well," he said, "Well, why don't we get our own gym?" And that's the kind. I said, "Well, yeah. Well, one day, 2-3 weeks later, we did. We did have our own gym, and then we went from there. We built somewhere else. Then we joined in with someone else now, and we got one of the. I'm involved in one of the biggest gyms in Portsmouth. Down at base camp, and we help and train so many people down there. So many people. I mean, like hundreds a week down there. It's a big old unit, and what it's become now is a gym family. You have peoples from all walks of life. I mean, I train a lot of firefighters, down there. I've got four or five good mates who are firefighters. One of them's just rode the Atlantic. He's just rode over. Another thing I look into, and I thought, I'd love to do that. But the wife won't let me. Yeah. Because she won't let God. One of the charity events I did was I swum to the Isle of Wight from Portsmouth. Well, I went, me and Gary again, we went to the swimming pool twice, done 30-minute swims. Yeah, we'd be all right doing that. We'll swim 2 miles over to the Isle of Wight. The day where we done it, the current was terrible. We ended up going 4.6 miles going right over to the other side of the Isle of Wight. And it was one of the only things in my life that scared me. When I was swimming over there, I got cramp instantly in my legs. So I was dragging my legs behind and doing breaststroke all the way over there. I had a canoe beside me. He said, I remember always saying, he said, "Mike, you need to hurry up. That shipping container's coming at you." I said, "Tell him to fucking turn around." I said, "Oh, I'm going this way." And that's it. But water scares me. Water scared me. It's the only thing as, I mean, I've done about 7 or 8 ultramarathons. I've done normal marathons, I've done fun runs, I've done everything, but water scares me. So rowing somewhere, that might be a box I'll tick one day.
Wow. Yeah. Well, fair play for facing the fear, though. I mean, with the swim, I mean, that takes some.
Yeah, but you say face the fear. I just think I'm an idiot because, to be honest with you, mate, I thought, well, yeah, I've been at leisure. And me and Gary, we've spun half hour each. Yeah, it's all right. It doesn't matter. We'll be able to do that. Someone said it only takes this long. But sometimes our respect and credit to you is, you silly bastards, I think should be said. I mean, we done a 10-mile run one week. We done a Great South Run. And then we said, right, well, we're into it. We did a 10-mile OCR race. We did that, and we said, "Yeah, we're running an ultramarathon next week then." So the week after, we run an ultramarathon. I couldn't walk for weeks. But when we were on the ultramarathon, we didn't have no lights. We didn't have no trial shoes. We didn't know that you needed them. We thought we'd done 10 hours. So that's the stupid side of us. I just love doing that kind of thing.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I don't know. I mean, I still think that I mean, okay, you say it's daft and everything, but I still think going up the mountain, doing the swim, all that, it takes balls of steel in the same way as it does to get in the ring, And I promise I'm not just saying that, but like the commitment and going in there as well, going in there like with the faith, it's going to be all right. It's like, yeah, we'll be all right getting there, man. I love that. You should definitely write that book. I know you said about a book earlier, 110%. You should write that book. like what a life you've lived, you know.
Yeah, mate. We could talk for hours, mate. It could go on because look, we have today. Something will trigger something in my brain, and I'll just start talking about it. It go on. It's what happens with me. You know, I do things, or I could be autistic and all quiet, and I won't really interact. But you know, sometimes when you feel comfortable, different things come out. You know, and I didn't even think about it. I'd say it. You know, so yeah, it's been good. I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it as well, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I said before, with the autism thing, I know it wasn't expected, but thank you.
Yeah.
Personally, thank you, because it's
Yeah.
actually quite refreshing to hear that for my own reasons personally. But also, thank you for, you know, me being the first one you speak to get it out there
Yeah.
to the world. I mean, that's an honor, that is. I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah. For sure.
You know, yeah. Um, well, all right then. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. And I think given the amount of adventures that you have, there's probably going to be an episode 2 down the road, whether it's on
We
the fighting
will have
side of
more.
things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Absolutely, you know, and you know, a few more fights, few more runs or swims or whatever comes up next, you know. You got to try what else? What can you try? I don't know. Skydiving, maybe that's got to be on the list for. Have you ever done that? You know, that's got to,
No, not really. Never interested me
no.
skydiving. No, I like a challenge. I like a challenge. Something like I say, this Dragon's Back race is North Wales to South Wales.
That's a
You
trek.
know, it's 380k in 6 days. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm training it for at the moment. Something people say can't be done. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I can walk 6 weeks ago. Getting now. Getting back in the wet.
absolutely. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, good luck for it, and I
Thank you very much, mate.
definitely, yeah, definitely be supporting you with that from afar. You know, sort of cheering you on and everything. Thank you for your time today, with all of this, and for being an open book and sharing everything you've shared. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Top man, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.